we don't really focus on calorie counting or even reading that many labels, because the goal of CK and this challenge is to get you to retrain your taste buds and learn to love whole foods. So you don't necessarily have to read nutrition labels. But of course, we're all going to have those gray area foods mixed in with our, our normal meals and stuff. So, and it's totally fine to eat packaged foods. It's just you want to be a little bit more educated on what your food actually is. And so that's what that lesson's all about. It just kind of takes you through all the nutrition, like breaks down the nutrition facts, even the ingredients label, and how to read those. And I have some examples that I was going to go through really fast. So I did let Bishop buy this cereal with marshmallows, and guess who eats all the marshmallows? Me. But I was gonna just go briefly through how to read the nutrition label and why it's important. So we were gonna compare something like, Dave's Killer Bread, which is associated with being, a more healthy version of something. But then, of course, like cereal is a known not healthy version of a carb source. But then we also have just a sack of potatoes, where you don't necessarily have to read a nutrition label, and it's a healthy carb source. So just for example, so if you did have something that you could compare, I would highly suggest looking at this. But just going through the nutrition label quickly, first you want to look at is the serving size. Now, serving sizes can be very, very deceiving, and within that lesson, we kind of gave you a breakdown of grams to ounces, so you could kind of get like a little visual of what that might look like. Because really, if somebody says, oh, I'm going to eat 37 grams of this, you're like, I don't even know what that looks like. So it's based off of like volume and weight and all that stuff. And they usually put serving sizes in grams. So we put a little conversion list for you to use, or to kind of give you a little idea of what it is. But so the serving size, that is what's listing the calories, all the macros that are listed on a nutrition label. It's pertaining to that one serving size. And so it's really important for you to understand the visual of what that serving size is, because you could essentially, like, for example, a cereal, serving size is about 1 cup. Now, get a measuring spoon out and scoop out 1 cup. Do you typically eat that? No, you probably eat double. But most people aren't thinking that way whenever they're reading that label. So the first thing listed macronutrients wise is fat. Now, main thing you want to stay away from is obviously trans fat. But they do usually have all the fats listed, and we've gone over in detail about polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, which are good fats. Main thing you want to steer clear from is trans fats. But then the next couple ones, like got your cholesterol and stuff. But then the total carbohydrates. Now this one is where it can get a little tricky, where they count fiber and sugars within that total count. So when you look at the total carbohydrates, this one says 1 cup is 32 grams, and you have 1 gram of fiber, and then the sugars are 12 total grams of sugars, and you're like, where the heck is the other carbohydrates coming from? But underneath there, so fiber is good, obviously. You can deduct 1 gram of carbohydrates away from your total to get your net carb count. So that's why everybody's like, more fiber, please. And I guess it takes down your net carb count for that food. So that's why high fiber is good in a lot of foods, is because it kind of helps you out that way. And where the fiber is the little thing that attaches to carbohydrates and doesn't allow your body to absorb it. So that's where the whole net carb thing comes through. But what I mainly like people to look at is the total sugars. Now, when you're reading a label, say you have, maybe it's a cereal, or it's something that has fruit inside of it or something like that, like a more natural sugar, that sugar total counts all of it. It's counting, you know, the natural occurring sugars and also the added sugars. But when you come down to the ingredients list, you can tell what has more naturally occurring sugars and what is more added sugars just by the ingredients list. So this one has 12 total sugars within the one thing. Well, I'm going to go down here and try to investigate where those sugars are coming from. And that's where the ingredients list really comes into play. So if you look at an ingredients list, it's right underneath the nutrition label. You'll see the listing. It goes in hierarchy of the amount or volume in that food. So whatever is listed first is the one that food is made up mostly of. And then it goes in order by volume. So for example, this Elf cereal, the number one ingredient is whole grain corn, but then the second ingredient is sugar. And so if you are grabbing something like this, and it doesn't have a whole food or Whole Foods listed in like the first 4 ingredients, you may want to put it back. That means that it is a little bit more processed and more added, probably most likely a little bit more added sugar, like not naturally occurring sugar. And then from there it goes cornmeal, brown sugar syrup, which is another sugar, maple syrup, another sugar, modified cornstarch, corn syrup, another sugar, dextrose, another sugar. So in that lesson we kind of go through how many names of sugar there are, and I think we listed out 30 of them, but if it ends in ose, like fructose or anything, dextrose, that's usually a sugar. But that's how companies can hide their added sugars, because you, like the normal person, doesn't know the names of sugars, so they can actually split up that total amount or ingredients list and make it seem like sugars are lower down on the list, when essentially there is 5 different sugars, types of sugar added to create that total. But in the ingredients list, it doesn't look that way. So that's why you have to be a little wary of products that you do buy. If you can pronounce the ingredients, so like for example, the Dave's Killer Bread, the first ingredient is organic whole wheat. Then we've got water, organic good seed grain and seed mix. That's like flax seeds, sunflower seeds, brown sesame seeds, black sesame seeds, whole flax, steel cut oats. Then after all of that, there's organic cane sugar. And then there's fiber, blah, blah, blah. So the cane sugar looks like that's the only source of sugar in this ingredient. All the rest sound just like plants that you could eat. So that's one of the reasons why you want to try to get the better quality food. So more closer to nature, the better off you are. And within that that lesson, we go through all the macros, like we go more into the sugar, like I said before, to kind of help you identify which products that have nutrition facts are better to buy. And so we hope that lesson arms you with the good information. Like I said, that was just like a brief overview of it, but definitely something worth noting, because we're all going to eat packaged foods. But in the ingredients list is probably the one thing that I will check first before I even go check the macros, because if it has a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't line up with my goals of eating more whole foods, then it's probably in my best interest to put it up. And then if you don't even want to read nutrition labels and you want to eat a smart carb or whatever it is, just go for the plants like I do. Because if you have marshmallows in the house, you will eat them.